All right, we're back. We are COMP3025 in the winter 2017 semester, and we are week 9, part 2 of our broadcast. I've just to let you guys know, I've put up little skeletons of everything you need to get done for the remainder of semester, right? Just to let you guys know where we're at. So if you look up on Blackboard, right, we've got about the remainder of the 50% of the course that's left. So today we're doing a lab 3, deploy React Native API. Just choose one that we haven't done. So pick one that it's not going to be the camera app, and it won't be Google Maps because I'm doing that one today. Pick another one, right, and do that one, whichever one it's going to be, something that makes sense, right? Like for example, if you want to use the gallery API to combine with your camera app, that's okay. Anything like that is fine. Okay. I've actually outlined the due dates for everything. So example, I've said part 1 is week 11. That's not next week, but the week after. That's when part one of your project's going to be due, right? Part 2 is your first runnable, due week 12. And part 3 is your final release, which is due week 13. So notice it's not doing the final week of class. It's due the week before the final week of class, right? And then we're going to do the presentation. The presentation will be due with the final week of class, which is worth 20, which replaces your exam, like I said, and everyone must attend for you to get your marks on that day, right? So that's kind of an outline of the rest of the stuff that what we're doing over the next little while. Next week, stay tuned. What I will do is a little bit of a prototyping session, UI UX prototyping session. So we'll talk about that next week, where I want you for bonus, again, it'll be a lab exercise in class. I probably will not be broadcasting it because there's no point broadcasting something that we're physically doing in class, an in-class exercise. So that's the one that I won't be broadcasting. We'll get together and physically build, kind of paper presentations, paper prototypes with Paper and Marvell, this app that we're going to download and use, right? There's a bit of a way of doing that. So, stay tuned for that. And that's going to happen early next week. I may have a guest speaker. I'll see what I can do. I may have a guest speaker to come in and help us do that. There's a UI UX guy. He actually has a mobile application development company based out of Toronto that might be able to come up and help us out. We'll see how it goes. It's kind of hard for him to come out of where he is to be here at 8 o'clock in the morning, but I'm going to try and get him out. Maybe I'll course him with a little bit of incentive. See how it goes. If he's watching, don't ask for too much money, Nav. Anyway, so then that's the the thing that's happening next week. So please be attentive for that one next week. It's going to be it might be an interesting one for you to do if you've never done any kind of paper prototyping before. It might be an interesting way of doing things. Any other questions around this stuff before we go into the details? All right, so let's go into Ionic Native. I've picked the Google Maps API that I want to do, right? And this would be my project. Notice that we're going to have to install everything here. So it says Ionic plugin and Cordova plugin Google Maps, right? Add Cordova plugin Google Maps, what I want to do, and then -- variable the API key for Android, right? Or the API key for iOS. Okay, so this is where your API key goes. Now, what if I don't use these API keys? What will happen? Well, your Ionic won't work properly with Google Maps. That's what's going to happen, right? This is the usage. So you can see that I need to import all this stuff from Ionic Native. That'll be the one line that I have to put in, right? Then I'm going to export my map page. That's what it's going to be. Here's my constructor. And then I'm going to load my map, and it says make sure to create the following structure in your view.html and add a height, for example, 100% to it, else the map won't be visible. And here's the Ionic content, and it looks like I have to hard code an inline style, a height style that's in here. And basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to make a link. I'm going to connect to my map. That's what it's going to be. And then I'm going to let my map. Now, this is kind of interesting because I'm trying to look at the class here for a second. Hold on. Map page. It's going to be called map page. And then I'm going to have to put all this stuff in here. So here's an example of some maps. So this is actually the entire API right here. It doesn't take much to put this together. The only thing I got to do is I got to get my API keys. So where do I get my API keys for Android and iOS? Google, right? So if I kind of search Google Maps API key, right? How do I get that? Developers.google.com, right? Get a key. Like seriously, it's pretty cool. Select the project, right? I got my node, my Ionic project, my node problem to create a project, my maps project. Right, here's my project name, my maps project. There we go. And create and enable an API. One day, when it likes to take his time for this kind of work. Oh yeah, it's taking its sweet time. Yay! Okay, don't use my API key. So it says the Google Maps JavaScript API, but I need a Google Maps API for iOS and Android. Will it be different than this one? What do you think?
Oh, I was looking at using the Flash.
That's cool. I like that one. Well, let's copy this one. This is to improve your app security. Restrict this key's usage in the API console. Yay! We'll click finish for this. I've copied it, and we're going to go down to. I'm just going to kind of open up a little a document, and let's make a new project. Remember how we did this whole thing, new project thing? I want to create a new Ionic project. Actually, you know what we'll do? We'll add on to the project we had last week. We had this. We're using COMP3025. We have a project native. We're going to build onto that that we did last week. So I'm kind of going to grab this one. Might as well, and just drag and drop native. There we are. And what I want to do is I want to put my API key in a file. So I'm going to kind of, so in the platform itself, I'm just going to add a new file, not in hooks, somewhere else, down in here somewhere. And we'll call it API.key. Paste that in there. And that's for the JavaScript API. So JavaScript API key. There it is. Back to this. So authentication in quotes, usage limits, it has that, adding a map and a marker, all this kind of stuff. But what about if I want to get my iOS or Android API key? Is there such a thing? Is there something different than for the JavaScript one, right? So get a key, secure your API key restrictions. Notice this is JavaScript, and I want to get an API key for iOS or Android, so otherwise it won't work. Now it will work in our little example because we're using JavaScript, right? But I'm going to make sure that there's, I may have to Google this one. Google on Google. Maps API key for iOS. Okay, get API key for iOS. You must register your app project on the Google API console to get a thing. Get a key. I think I already done this, but let's see if it's different. Oh, here it is for iOS. Select the project. We're going to call this my maps project. Do I have it here already? Here it is, my maps project. Enable API. You're all set. I'm going to grab this little key here. And I'm going to put that back inside my project. So we'll say this is my iOS API key. Different. And we'll get one for Android too. So again, we'll do the same thing. We'll say Google Maps API key for Android. Get the key, select the project, my maps, enable API. We're all set. Finish. Okay, cool. And we'll look at we'll drop that into VS Code. So Android API key. There we go. It's all slightly different. Okay, cool. So we've got our API keys. This is good. And now the next part is we got to follow the instructions on the page for Ionic. So which means I have to do this. And what I want to do is actually copy this whole line out for myself. Go back into my app and fit it together because I want to kind of copy paste this. I don't want to type this out. It doesn't make any sense because it's such a long key. So I'm just going to grab one of these. This is the Android API key. So right here, grab this. By the way, whenever I've done this in the past, it's always best to do it right here like this. That way you know there's no issues, right? If you try doing it some other way, fancy way, or if you try to tip it again, it adds to your pain. You just don't want to add to your pain. Okay, here it is for iOS. Why isn't he showing me that? It's off screen. There we go. Oops. And paste. New photos. My wife's adding new photos all over the place. Okay. And then save this file. I know it's crazy, but if you don't do it this way, it can be bad. And go all the way down. Open up my little terminal window. Look at that craziness, eh? Enter. Hey, that's why I chose that's why I chose Google Maps, right? To make it more difficult, right? I don't know either. Okay, now the nice thing is we've got our maps for is adding the plugin for all the platforms that I have installed. So I've done the platform install first. We fixed that problem. And now we're adding in all the plugins afterwards, right? Because that would be bad if we did it the other way around. I'll let this thing do its job here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a page, right? I'm going to add a page with CLI. And the page will be yet another little tab, and that tab will be the maps. We'll put the maps and the camera next to each other. So you can go maps and camera. And I'll deploy it to my little device here so you can see how it works when this is all done. It's going to take its sweet little time doing this. In the meantime, any questions around Ionic? This will be the last time we talk to Ionic, last day today, right? Because from now on, it's all project, right? So we'll be doing project activities for the next little while. And I'm going to be helping you build out your project. So next week is going to be your UI UX talk. Hopefully I'll get somebody to come in, like I said. That'll be next week for 8 o'clock. I don't expect that there's going to be any more people here than normal, even if it's a lab that's due that day, right? And we're going to be using a paper prototype, which means that I'll probably bring paper. And what we may need to do is I may need to bring some scissors in as well. Scissors, paper, all that stuff. Please bring your own Sharpies, right? Because you're going to need some kind of Sharpies or pens to do stuff with. For next week, maybe I'll put a little note out to everybody. This is taking its sweet time, eh? I thought by now we would be done, right? Oh, I know. Come on, don't rub it in. Okay, we're good. So the app got added in, and if we go back to this for a second, and if I go back to the documentation for the CLI for those people who are interested and watching, I want to add pages to my CLI, right? So if you notice that there is generate, like we did last time, I want to add my page, right? And my page is going to be called maps. And I'm probably going to use the map Ionicon if there is such a thing, and I'm sure there is. right? So if I go down to here, and we're going to just clear the page, we're going to do this. We're going to say Ionic, G for global, page, and we're going to call this maps page, right? Generated, right? We're going to go back into my Ionic app right here first and get that page ready to go. So under source, you're going to see that there's that extra page now for my, you should see an extra page. Where did it go? I don't normally, no. Pages, see, maps. Yeah, and now it said maps page because I called it maps page. But in tabs, where we have this part, under my tabs.ts and my tabs.html, I got to include that additional root tab root. So I think what I want to do is I want to make my maps the second one and my camera the third one. This could be an interesting little adventure kind of app, right? Where you map out where you are, your location. Here's where I'm currently am. I want to find a place. And then I'm going to have some kind of geotagging or one of those kind of things. And I take pictures of where I am with my adventure. And I kind of put it up on storage on the back end using, which we call it Firebase. So I'll use Firebase storage. I can put up my pictures that I took for my little adventure, right? I'm making this up as I go along, right? Okay. So I'm kind of, here's my camera app. My camera app is going to be tab 3 root. That's what it's going to be. And my subtitle for my tab 2 root is going to be called maps. And we're going to use the map. I'm guessing there's going to be a map icon, right? My Ionicon. Okay. And then in my, I can't finish there. My tabs page itself, I have to actually get and import that page. So here's my, I'll put it in here in the middle. So I'm going to copy this. And we're going to go in here. We're going to call this the maps page. I'm going to call it maps page, but it's going to be from maps-page. And it's going to be called maps.-page. Those two, that's where it's going to come from. Now it's interesting that it gives me this underline, right? Maps page. And the reason why it's giving me this is because I'm not exporting it that way. So I got to see what it's exporting like. And it's going to be maps page. That's what it ends up being because the way I called it, right? Okay, you know what? I don't know. I'm not happy with that. You guys, are you guys happy with that? That's like ugly, right? Huh? That is that's an unhappy thing. I don't like that. All right. So now, do you guys know how to remove pages? Yeah. Is there a way? Well, G for generate, right? Let's see if there's a way of removing pages. So I want to remove a page through Ionic. Let's see, maybe move page Ionic 2. I know this is the generate, but I'm wondering if I can remove. If there's a way, or if I just right click and I think I have right click and remove. So I don't think it's kept anywhere. So let's right click and remove. I'll try it again. So this whole home page is going to go by the by. Bye-bye. And I'll just put it back in. So I'll go back into this part. Nah, it didn't. And if it did, we'll know. Maps. So maps got generated. That's better. Maps page works, but this doesn't. This has to change to maps. There we go. That's much nicer. And now in my maps page, this is where I'm going to do all my work, where we insert all that stuff. This is where we're working, so I'm going to get rid of all this. We do have to put it inside my my main app itself, right? Which is going to be. Let me see if my manifest.json added anything in, just because what you said. That's not good. That would be not good if I did that. But in my app itself, in my app component.ts, right? This is my app component for Ionic. This is the tabs page. So it's not there, but let me check out my app module, which is where it would be. my app. I think we have to put this in on our own. So camera page, home page, tab page, and we need to put in our, I'll put it up here so we can, it's got to be in this kind of order. Import the maps page from pages, maps. How about I say from instead of form? There we go. 1M. Okay, that's good. So now I've got that in there, and then just like I did last time, I've got to go in here and I got to put in my maps page. Notice I'm putting it in ahead of time as opposed to later on because I want one page to know about the other ones. Maps page. Okay. So now that that's been added into my bootstrap and my declarations, I'm pretty good to go from this perspective. I've got my page linked up, and now I need to test that it's actually physically there before I add any functionality. So I'm going to go back to here, and we're going to say Ionic serve, then -L, right, which is what I want to try and do, so we can see how it looks in different platforms. And ta-da, maps. Actually looks like a map too. This looks pretty cool. I actually like it better on the Android version, it looks like, than the iOS version. That's just me. This is like, I guess this part is native, right? Let me just go down. So it actually tells you, it should tell you which one is which, right? That's interesting. Anyway, so if I click on maps, it doesn't do anything right now. Oh, this is camera on the top of maps. Oh man. Camera, why does it say that? It's my camera app. It won't let me go in there. Camera app. That's weird functionality. Something went wrong there. So I got to figure out why that is. Maybe. Let's go back and check it out. Well, that's why I'm doing this, right? Because I want to make sure that nothing is messed up. This doesn't matter. This order doesn't matter. It's the in my tabs page that really matters. So if I go down to source, and if I look at tabs and this, tab icon maps, map home, tab title is home, maps and camera. Tab, oh, that's why. Duh. I need to include my my tab root in there, right? Because that's not right. It should go like this. It should. That's why I was curious. I was like, that's weird. There should be 3. And there should be this should say maps page. There you go. Forgot to do that. And let's just look at, here's my iPhone. So maps will be in there, and then camera will be in here. Obviously, we're not going to get a preview right now. And then for Android, it's going to look like this. Maps will be in there.
Android map icon.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, eh? And then the Windows version will look like this. Okay, so that's good. So I think we've got a pretty good approximation of where it's gonna sit. Bring back that iPhone. And now we have to put in the details. So if I go back into my maps page, so again, we've got this piece. I got to change all this, and I'm going to have to change this piece. So if we go back to the API documentation for native, and if I look at maps, so part of it's a setup, part of it's this. So I need to include all this stuff for my Ionic native, which means I'm going to go over here, and just thinking now for a second before I do this, Ionic Angular. And then I think this might be okay, but I think I'm going to put it above here because if I'm not wrong, when I did my camera API, I did it right in here. Okay, that should work. So it doesn't really matter when. Just want to make sure that I'm capturing this correctly. So hit that. Now that's interesting. One of them errors out. that means either they've been removed, right? This one doesn't work. Like it says, has no exported member Google Maps map type ID. That's interesting. That means in native, Ionic native, for whatever reason, the documentation they've given us is incorrect. I love it. But this is what happens, my friends. This is what happens. So we're going to remove this for now. Although I'm not sure what we can do without this. Actually, let's leave it in for now. Hopefully that won't error out. Maps pages. Let's go back to the component. So it's called map page. Here's my constructor. I definitely have to do this. It says load map only after the view is initialized. So I'm going to wait till after view init. That's interesting. All right. So that's going to be inside. So there's my constructor. So it's underneath my constructor. So there's my constructors here. And here's my view did load. And we're just going to kind of do one of these. We don't have the reason why this is popping up like this is because we don't have that in there. It's going to be this one. So this is this whole piece right here. That is going to be part of that method. So it's going to end off. Just going to make sure that it's this right here. That's interesting. Did we layer that in? Or those are separate? Oh, this whole thing. Let's try that again. So make sure that I want to kind of capture the end of this thing. Load map. And these little things here are just map.1. This is an event handler, and so it goes all the way to map add markers to here, and this is the extra point there. So I think I'm going to grab all this, which goes to this. But I just didn't want to grab an extra thing in there. Notice that we don't have a view did load, which kind of worries me. As long as it's in there, and that's what I was worried about right here. See this?
Did you get rid of the previous method of the copy over?
Yeah. It's almost worth just killing all this stuff and then just grabbing all this and just make sure that none of it's there. So I'm going to go grab all of this for a second. And then we're going to get this view did load out of there. Now, I'll put it back inside there in a second. I'm going to go back all the way up to here and go to there, let's say. And then make sure it's correct. Maps page. Well, it's called map page. Now we can't go wrong.
Yeah, get rid of all those phrases.
I was worried about this because that usually has some kind of thing we pass in as well. And this has got to be in there. Oh, look at that, see? So I wasn't totally wrong. Something's wrong with this, the number of braces that we have in there.
I think that's residual from the last time we copied over.
You think?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll do it again. So let's grab this part here, and I'll go all the way down to, oops, here.
Well, maybe not.
Look at that. And then if I grab this and I go all the way up to the top, I don't think so. I'm going to grab over here like this, watch. So I'll leave that extra part in there and then delete it. All right, so I'll just delete this part. See?
Might be encapsulating the constructor. Doesn't make sense.
Well, the way to do it, of course, we'd go through and add them all in one at a time, right? So let's just do it one at a time. Yeah, see, all this stuff has to be there too. That's what we're doing. So this ends here. This ends there. That ends there. This part's where the issue is. And this is the end of my thing here. So then I wonder if it's this does this and this closes up this. But why this part? I think it's just this. This part will close. I might even have an extra. Yeah. Okay, so load map is going to be called here, ng after view init. But it's funny that we're also going to have our Ionic view did load. I'm going to think about this for a second. We have to actually have that in there. That's required. Let's come back to this. All right, so we got all this part, and we've added a marker and all this kind of stuff. Google Maps marker, Google marker options. I want to see if there's anything else that's being called. Google Maps, lang, map. And the one thing we have a problem with is this one. And I'm wondering if we just can take this out without an issue. But actually, I'll leave it in for now and see if it gives me a problem compiling. It may, because it looks like we're having an error here. And then we're going to have to put in our pages. This stuff here has to go on the page. So Ionic content, Ion contents. This part here has to be in the pages. Make sure you create the following structure in your view.html and add a height, for example, 100% to it, else the map won't be visible. Look at where this. And we're going to go into our maps.html, which is our template. And somewhere in there, right here, is where that's going to go. With padding, it says. Padding. And we'll just put that back in there. Map ID, map, 100% height. And that should be good. All right, cool. Let's try that again then. So it's looking like it's not liking that at all, but it does does finish building. I'm just gonna leave that in there because sometimes what it is TypeScript is giving us an issue, but there really isn't an issue. It's just a TypeScript definition issue. So it's trying to cross-populate it, but it's not finding it. So that's why I've left it in. I didn't remove it for that reason. And I know this because of TypeScript, not because of anything else. Okay, let's go back to this and let's see if this is okay. So this is a problem. So it is actually an issue, but it is a TypeScript error, right? Okay, well, we can take it out and try it without, and then we'll Google it, see if we can fix it, because that shouldn't be the case, this thing here. So we'll copy it out. Actually, what I'll do is, I'll just do one of these. Right? And we're good. Let's see if we can get the map. Nope. It says Navigator platform, Mac, Intel, user agents, Mozilla. All right, what's the problem here? It says error, uncaught in promise object, localhost, polyfills. Okay, that's why I wanted to. Let's try it on Windows for a second. I might get the same error, but I want to see if there's another problem. See if I can get it in the inspector, because I see it a lot better in here. So polyfills.js, task invoke, object, original stack trace, false. This is the problem here. Angular 2 is running. Native tried calling status bar style default by Cordova is not available. That's fine. Bunch of that's happening. Get picture by Cordova is not available. Native tried calling camera picture. Device changed iPhone false. Device changed iPhone true. That's just me turning it off and on. And when I refresh by myself, I'm good. But when I click on maps, that's when I have a problem. So the main page works, but this page is what fails. Ionic plugin, add plugin, Google Maps, add Ion view did load maps page. So this is where I get my unhandled exception. And I wonder if I got to take that away. So what if I don't do this ionic view to load because I'm waiting for ng after view init. So one of these, one of those. Transpiles properly. Build finished, okay, and go back to here and refresh. Okay, cool. Click on maps, and we still get that error. Ionic plugin. Nav control base transition. I wonder if I have to add this in anywhere else. Promise, uncut, promise in thing, error handler. Load maps is being called. Now, if I just do one of these, I'm just curious, just see what's going on here, right? So I want to see what caused me the error. So I'm just troubleshooting now. All right, so refresh. Cool, click on this. All right, so it's definitely being called. Take a look, because if I do this and I go back to here, when I'm calling my load map, I'm trying to load it after my view initializes. That's a problem. So this is the problem where we're having. So in here. Okay, so element is equal to HTML element document take element by the map, right? So it's kind of find this. Ionic Google Maps latitude, longitude. That's what it's finding this, longitude. Position, camera position, map 1. Google Maps event, map ready. When map is ready, then map move camera to position. Let marker options, Google Maps marker options. Position is ionic, title is ionic. And then we add a marker. That's all we're doing here. And then we're ending that off. And I think that's the problem. Because this part ends the... I think we don't have enough braces. Let me see. We're opening a brace, closing both of those, closing both of those, opening another brace. Sorry, guys. Closing both of those, closing both of those, closing both of those, closing both of those, closing this one. So now we're open. Yeah, so the braces are good. The braces are accurate. It's not a brace issue. I've done this structure and a height, or else the map won't show up. I'm getting an error. Now the next thing to look at is this piece, the Ionic Maps API for Ionic Native. I got to look at this Ionic Native stuff, right? So that's in users, Thomas, desktop, Lesson 8 native, node modules, Ionic Native, dist ES5 index. That's where it's looking, right? So Ionic Native under node modules. I'm just curious. There's always something with this stuff. Of course, I've chosen the ones that's the most difficult. Ionic Native, dist, ES5, is that what I looked at? So here it is. Here's the function for Ionic Native. Background mode, clip, all this stuff. ES5, plugins, index.js, edge, camera, Google Maps. Google Map 1 is what it's called. Plugins, Google Map. Just curious. Plugins, Google Map. Troubleshooting 101. Google Map.js. Hopefully it's not a gobbledygook. Map click, camera change, map marker. So it really doesn't have that. Look, map click. There's my Google Maps.js. And if you look at maps.ts, I'm looking at Google Maps map ID, right? Google Maps marker, but there's no Google Maps map ID. Marker. Camera change, camera idle. position, maps marker. Like, see, look, they even give you the usage right here. But look, there's none of the other part. That is so, look, guys, this is really bizarre. I've got the map API here, right? And it's actually right with everything else that I had. So it actually gave you everything. This is my Google Map itself, where I'm plugging it in, and there is none of that stuff that I need. Here's my prototype, my add event listener. Here's my observable, and I'm connecting in, and my promise of my add listener once. Isn't that interesting? It's written pure in JavaScript. What is the TypeScript version? Google Map.ts doesn't exist, of course. But I've got my, oh, there's d.ts. I wonder if this is a little better. That's better. So there's my add event listener. This is available. Add listener once, get, set, on, one, empty, set debuggable, set clickable, set camera position. That's what we're doing, which is actually going to return my promise, my location, get my location. I'm wondering if I'm just not connecting properly because I'm connecting to, it's going to be one of those things again. Add polyline. So all this stuff is working. But I like the fact that they have their details right in here. So if I grab all this, and just in case I made an error, I can put all this stuff map page. But they don't have that in the constructor. They don't have that in the constructor at all. Well, let's grab this and see what happens. Let's go back to my maps page. One more time. And we'll just change this to maps page as opposed to map page. Maps page. I'll put it down in here. Yep. I don't need all this stuff, but I'll just take it out. Sometimes it's something else I missed, or it was just an old, maybe the documentation that I got is different than the one that's online. It happens sometimes. We just have to be patient, and then everything will work out. And then we're going to have to Google the crap out of this again, like we did last time. That's the lovely thing about hybrid apps, right? All right, so that looks like it's all good. This is where we have to do our work. So what I naturally did, nav params and nav controller, because this is going to, we don't have just one page. That's why the constructor looks like this for us. So I'm going to grab this thing, put that in there. I'm not going to have a view to load. Just taking that out, and I'm just going to do one of these. So that should be everything we need to get moving and grooving. And definitely not, there is no Google Maps map type ID, because if I look here, there's just this. In fact, just make sure that it's like the way it is. I'm going to open up another thing there. And then let's go back to this. So you can see that map events, map lat lang, position, marker options, marker. And none of this. Google Maps map type ID. So this can go. I just confirmed it with the actual type definition right here. So that's all good to go. Here's my component. Page maps, maps.html. It all looks good, but it doesn't mean it is good. All right, let's see if that makes any difference. And it probably is not going to, but let's try it on my phone. Let's deploy live and see if I got a difference. So let's build this thing out, but I can't build if there's an error. Especially the polyfill. Let's see what this says. Google Maps API Ionic 2. That's good that we have a little thing here. Maps before we get started. Beginner's guide, la 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 la. Set up Ionic 2 project. We did this. Set up Ionic Maps. Adding a Google Maps SDK to Ionic. Da da da. Okay. Maps in your index.html file. Oh, that's interesting. API key. Wait, to make the JavaScript API available within our application, we'll need to include the library. You do so when you're loading it in your source index.html file. Oh, maybe that's what's missing. All right, so I guess I need to put this inside my index.html file. Let's try this out. So grab that. I wonder if, now that should automatically come with this, but you know what? You never can tell. Maybe somehow it didn't get included. So that's in my index page under my source. That's where it says. So it's my index page. Get rid of this page. And sure enough, it doesn't have it. Okay. Put it in. That's really bad if you didn't have it in there. So let's go back to my little app. No API keys. Okay, install Ionic plugin, move exception, uncaught, and promise, type error, cannot read property, move camera of undefined. That's the issue now. That's a different issue. Let's just refresh this page just so that I only have one page. And then this part comes up. Move camera of undefined. So that's the issue. Where I have something undefined. That's the problem that I'm going to troubleshoot. So let's go back here. And so this, I don't know if it helped or not, but I put it in for now. And that's, I'll do the tutorial in a second, but I want to kind of go up and check this out. So go into my pages in my maps.ts. And it says can't get move camera of my map. Where am I getting my map? Let map be equal to new Google map element. And element is equal to document.getElementById map. And I need to have that inside of my template. And my template is on the page maps. That's a selector. Page maps. Ionic content. Map. ID is equal to map. I wonder if I have to put that in there. So if I go like one of these, ID's map with a height style and padding. So I'm not able to get an element of undefined. Okay, let's do a console log. So go to back in here, and now all this is happening when I initialize my view. So after my view is initialized, then I'm doing this part. So let's just do a console log of map, just to make sure that it's correct. New Google Map element of map. Actually, I think what I really want to do is do this part first of elements. Are we getting an element? That's really important. So element, that would be very bad. Refresh. Map. Yeah, we are. So we're actually tying into that whole element right there. That's where we're actually getting an element native. Tried accessing the Google Map plugin, but it's not installed. Well, there you go. Accessing the Google Map plugin, not installed, but I think I did install it, no? I'm pretty sure I did install it. Did it fail? So that's node modules, that's hooks, that's plugins, Google Maps iOS. Google Maps. No, it's there. And I wonder what Google Maps iOS gives us. That's a little different. Does it put in my API key? Is that what it does? Maps framework. Bear with me, guys. This is part of the troubleshooting. No, this is just the framework. So maybe it's inside of my manifest. See, it doesn't show it here, which is concerning to me. WebView bounce, UI, Android, plugin keyboard, plugin console, plugin device, plugin splash screen. It may not be there. Maybe it's inside of our source. Source, manifest.json. Standalone. I did put it here. Is that right? Let's go back to this little thing here. Loading my map. Header, map, ion button, add a marker, and here's this div map. So they did actually do this piece here, where my map is equal to map. So go back out to maps, pages, maps, maps.html, and put that marker back in. That's required. Okay, cool. I already did this. I don't care about that. I'm just getting a certain thing here, and now this is my component. This is what I wanted to see. Import home HTML, view child, map element ref. This is different. See? That's totally different. And home.ts. But where do I put in all that stuff for the map stuff that I loaded in? Is there another place? Add the following styles, the geolocation plugin from Ionic into Google Home. Where do you put in the maps plugin? Markers, infos, Windows map, home, and summary. They never added it in. How did they not do that? How did it work without his plugin? Oh, he did it through the Ionic application framework. Google Maps API in your index.html file. And API would be the API key. When building production applications, you should obtain an API key for Google Maps integration and supply it as a parameter in the query string, i.e. key is equal to your key. I did that already. Load the map. But one thing they did different is this part, is this part here. So they didn't use an Angular part front end. They used this ion view loaded part. Ion view loaded for this part. So I'm going to kind of, and then view child map element ref. Map element ref. With map is any, or map is any. Okay, I like that a little bit better. Where do they get a reference to this, the map itself though? Map ID, my type maps.map type ID roadmap. Oh, that's why we have that map ID in there. Load map, where your map is loaded right here. That's interesting. It's a different way of doing it. Okay. And plugin. Where do they talk about adding in the plugin? Build production apps. So they didn't add the apps plugin in this case, and in this case they're doing it a different way. But what they did do, which I like, is this. They're using the ion view loaded to build this up, and then call load map from in here. Let's try that. So that might be the cause. The cause might be it's loading wrong, or in the wrong order. So it's maps.ts, and what we're going to do is, instead of doing this nf after view init, we'll put this part in there and then just copy or cancel out this part here, because that might be the issue. It's not loading at the right time. I'm hoping. Refresh. Yeah, and then click on maps. That's a good sign, guys and girl. That's a really good sign. It's not giving me an error anymore. Now I can build it. But does that mean it's loading properly? Inspect. It says no API keys. Okay, so let's try and do that. Let's go back down here into my index page under my source for a second. So I don't think I need this if I have the plugin installed. So I can do, I don't know, and we'll kind of put it down here. And I've serves to block that part out, and then I'll go back in here and cool. Okay, so maybe it's going to work not up here, but physically on the device, which means we have to try out my device a little bit again, because in the emulator, she no working, like always. So how do we do that? We're going to do a Ionic run on the browser, if that works any different. We'll try Mac OS too. See if it works on there. Okay, that didn't work, but that didn't error out either. Let's see what we're getting here in the browser. So go console. Status 44 logo ping. Angular 2 is running on the development mode. Call error. Exact proxy not found. Google Maps is available. Cordova. Device ready fired after 808. Status bar is not supported. But this part here, exact proxy not found for Google Maps is available. That's a problem. All right, let's try running it with the iOS simulator. But we're going to try and run it with my device plugged in. So let's unplug my mouse here for a second. Oh, not that. The mouse. I don't know what happened there. Okay, let's try plugging that in. That's really sensitive. I'm plugging my trusty little device. And we'll kick off Xcode. We'll do a build for We'll do a little build for iOS. So we'll say Ionic build iOS. Just like we did last time. And then I'll open up the Ionic app with Xcode. I don't like those errors either. And let's see if that makes a difference when it comes to everything else. So we're going to grab Xcode now. Here's Xcode. Come on. Come on. Trackpad. Bizarre. We're going to open up an existing project. Cancel. Try that again. I'm going to go to File, Open. And we're going to look at that project under Desktop. We're going to look at 3025 under Native, under Platforms, under iOS. And here's the code project. That's good. It's indexing for my phone, it detects my phone. And now what we're going to do is we're going to build it. So we're going to Command B for build. That's it. The build succeeded with a bunch of deprecations. I love this stuff. And then let's deploy it on the device. All right, so if we did it fine, and I've got my little device here, and you guys can't see it, but let's see if it's actually going to build out. Installing, and let's see what kind of craziness we get. Cordova. Page load. And this is where I get a lot more debugging. So my camera, she still works, no problem. I can cancel it and go back to the page. My maps doesn't work at all. I'm not getting anything whatsoever. But I'm also not getting any code hinting, which gives me the impression when I look at this stuff that let's see what's happening here in the debugging process. Native. These are just timings, API validation, finished load of file, application bundle, thread warning took. Plugin should use a background thread. My camera page triggered, but then when I went back to my maps, nothing happened. Okay, so let's stop this and try running it again, because maybe what I did was because I went to the camera app, I didn't do this. I'm just going to run that one again. So Command R would run the app live on my device and build it, so I know that whatever's in there will work or fail. Resetting plugins, reset app fired. If I click on my Maps API, I get nothing at all. So that's that means that it's just not loading. It's not connecting to the Google platform for it to load. Okay, I'm just going to disconnect my phone for a second. And there's no point putting it in if it's not going to work. And there must be that reason for that ng app thingamajiggy there that we saw on the documentation in Ionic. This part here is available. Add event listeners, get key, set key, empty, data URL. So this is the Maps API. This is all they have here. Ionic native, ng after view after load. So this is where we had a problem. So We were waiting for this to load. And we're not running this in the constructor. It has its own. But everything else looks like my camera position. It's waiting for the map to be ready. And adding a marker. That's all it's doing. And it's adding a marker to a very specific Google Maps location, which is okay. I'm okay with it being hard-coded right now. I just want to, and it gets this part. It's just this part that has a problem. Google Map element doesn't do anything. It's like there is no Maps API connected here whatsoever. All right. What if I was to do this dot load map, and I actually called this function ng after view init. I called this function within the other one. I don't think that'll work that way though, because it's like an event handler. It's almost like I gotta wait for one to finish loading and then load the other one. So back to the drawing board. That didn't work. Go to pages. We're almost done, guys. Sorry, I'm trying my best here. And here's our Ionic. Live coding, my friends. Things that work sometimes don't work now. So this is what we really want. That's what it says in the code. This right here would want to happen. But I wonder if we were to kind of put one within the other. Sometimes JavaScript allows weird things to happen. It's almost like I want to do one of these, but see, it can't be. Yeah. So if I was to do one of these, and then call this load map again twice. Curious. And then go back to this part and Ionic serve by itself. No fancy stuff going on. You guys got it to work at all? Anybody? No? You're working at it too?
I'm using a different native plugin with not using issues.
Are you? Okay. User agent. Uncaught in promise. My polyfills. Okay. Tried to access it, but it's not installed. Plugin warning. Well, that's the issue. It's trying to access the plugin, but somehow it's not seeing it. So let me go back to putting that into place for a second. So let me go back to his example. And I'm telling you, it's some kind of combination of this kind of stuff. And I'm wondering if this maps API.js, if that plugin needs to be in. It says it needs to be in. Google Maps API in your index.html file. Okay. I'll try it out one more time. And then I'm going to put it aside and give you a solution next week. Plugin, but it's not installed. Okay, let's try call this up one more time, and then we're going to be done for today. Connect to application, Josh. Is that something new? Native SDKs. Before we get started. Okay. You didn't make the blank app. remove and he added it back in at a certain level. Following command sets Google Maps plugin. Make sure you enable both the Google Maps Android API and Google Maps SDK for your iOS. You should be able to see both APIs in your dashboard. All right, maybe that's the problem. So we'll go back to my dashboard and we'll look at my products for me. Where would that be? Same guy. So it's under generate the API keys for Mac. Okay. Create and manage your Google Cloud Platform disk networks and email preferences and setups. Email me updates regarding feature announcements, performance suggestions. Okay, whatever. Well, that's interesting. Maybe my keys are wrong. Because it's not showing them here at all. It says that when I register a project, turn on Google Maps Android API, go to API access page. Okay, where would I do that? No. API manager, there we go. API manager. Yeah, I do have it. Look, here's my Google Maps Android API. Geocoding, all this stuff. Look, Maps SDK for iOS. No response. Errors, latency. Where's the API key though? All right, response code. Where the hell is it? Quotas. So I just have it, but how do I get it? Credentials. They're there. It says something else, has an error in there. It says this API key is unrestricted to prevent unauthorized. I don't care about that for now. We're just checking this out. OAuth consents, and these are the ones I selected for each of those different APIs. What's this API key? API key, none. Key restriction. Regenerate my key. I don't have to regenerate keys. All right, so I've got like 3 keys, no problems. Key for Android applications. Install the plugin. Change the HTML. Wow. Okay, that's different. Did you get any progress with it?
Plugin not installed.
On map ready. On button clicked. Phone gap. Google Maps. Build and run. This is using Cordova. GM. All right, so that didn't quite work. Native Google Maps Ionic to application. Set up template. Okay, got my map in there. Oh, making my stuff come up. Initialize Google Maps. Oh, look what they did. They kind of cut that right down. Wow, that's a little different. I'm closer. All right, I will accept this one. This one looks more like it with my proper constructor and a load map. Platform ready. That's what I want, definitely. Let's do all that. So I'm gonna go do all this. So for my home page, it won't be in my home page, it'll be in my page. And I've already got that stuff running. So theoretically, I should be able to do all this up to there. Copy. Bit of a pain, eh? No? Let's see how this works out. But you know what? This is part of the fun of it all, right? I mean, it's learning new stuff, dealing with an API. Sometimes the API is unstable or incorrect. I love when that happens. And that's it. You know, it's just we kind of deal with it as best we can. Maps page, Google Map. Right, the map is there. And then it says only put in Google Maps event, Google Map Let's. We don't care about the marker because I'm not using, but I'll leave them in there anywhere because that's not going to kill anything. Platform is equal to platform. What does that mean? Oh, nav controller platform for Ionic Angular. Nav params and then platform. You can do that. And let's see if that makes a difference. Still getting that uninstall thing, eh? Okay. Now he did all this. I'm following his exact thing here. So if it's anyone's we're following, got this piece in there. Cannot simply correct that. This map is equal to Google Map. Did he do that? This map right here. Google Map, test on a device or emulator. And we should have Adelaide. It's very basic, but it's not working. Set up template, error domain. Says this is if this because API was enabled correctly. I know because I forgot to enable the iOS API. API keys. You should need to supply them with installation command on the plugin. It's straightforward, but there's a couple things you should watch out for. Make sure the package name you supply, com.example.myapp machines, matches the one in the config.xml. Enable both Google Maps API and Google Maps SDK for iOS. You should be able to see both APIs listed here, which I did. Yeah, like that. Well, I did all that work. This doesn't matter. This is just styling. Can't even get there. Native home.ts. Google Map, I just changed this piece, and the rest is exactly the same. So that's not this. So we have to find maybe some other thing. There's another problem with this thing. Oh. Source pages. Camera position. Nav params. Unused import. Unused import. Okay. Well, that's just warnings. Those are warnings. Those aren't anything else. Let me just go back to this piece. And then we'll try one more thing, and then we'll be done for that because we're already over. So page loads. Clear. Ionic plugin. Let's have that plugin back in. Try it one more time. It's already installed, so that's good. And if I serve or build on iOS, and if I build that, I wonder if it'll automatically fail. All right, well, we'll try this one last thing, guys, and then we're way over. We're over time, so we'll see you next week for people who are finished, you know, hanging out with me. And then I'll come up with a solution next week, worst case, for the application. Plug this in, go back to Xcode, and let us connect and run. And if it doesn't work, then we know there's some kind of issue because I've tried everything that I know how to do. You done? No, why is it resetting? All right, maps. Allow to use your location. Allow. Well, it asks for my location. That's a good thing. I get black screen, but it asks for my location. It says map is ready. Look, it even says map is ready. That is so messed up, man. Map is ready. So go back, go here, and go to my camera. That works. Camera works. Cancel. Go back to my map. Image. No image selected. All right, let's try it one more time. That was good. That we were closer. I mean, I'm closer to it. I'm wondering if there's some other kind of block that's happening. I have to specify my bundle identifier on iOS, the iOS SDK. But anyways, I don't think I do. I think I'm unrestricted right now. Okay, see you next week, guys. Thank you so much for everything. And we will... Map is ready, except I'm getting a black background, black map. There we go. All right, we'll resume next week. Thank you so much, and I'll come up with kind of a reset for this one. Okay, take care.